Hey, Brad, thanks for joining me on today's Spotlight. We're going to start with some real basic stuff. Why don't you just introduce yourself, what you do, the business, all that basic stuff.
Sure. So my name is Brad Wedel. I'm the Director of Sales and Operations for Cell Plus. Technically, we're Cell Plus 2, but we don't call ourselves that around here. We were actually the original Cell Plus as well.
So how did you guys end up with the two?
Well, it was a legal thing when we switched over from whatever we were before. I don't know if we were an LLC or something along those lines. And when we went incorporated, we had to have a different name. So we added the 2 on the end. But we just go by Cell Plus. So we're a 9-door U.S. cellular agent in Wisconsin. My responsibilities kind of span a bunch of different areas. Kind of more the big picture, strategic planning from the sales aspect and trainings and making sure we're following proper sales processes, really results driven. Then on the operational side, just looking for operational efficiencies, developing different policies and procedures to help give our associates the tools needed to do their job the way that we want them to do it.
Awesome. So you kind of wear a couple hats.
Yes, several. Spinning plates all the time.
So why don't we talk a bit about life before Statflow, if you will. So example, walk us through what you used to do in terms of outreach. Did you do any outreach? Were you kind of creating some targeted lists on your own? I'd love to hear a bit about how you guys did that in the past.
Sure. So we've done a few different things within our point of sale system. There's some, they were called 3x3s. So after 3 days of purchase, it would just trigger us to reach out to the customer to check out, how they were doing with their new device or whatever the purchase was. And then after 3 weeks, we would do the same thing. 3 months, we would do the same thing. And that was, obviously a very basic attempt at customer outreach, if you even want to call it that. Really no oversight as far as people actually doing it. It was just a checkbox within the system. So you could just kind of click through and pretend like you did it if you didn't really actually want to do it. So that was years and years ago. We also have utilized Sales Now. So that's something that US Cellular supports, and they upload lists into there, which again, there's not a ton of oversight. The reporting's kind of cumbersome and not super easy to access and understand. And so same thing there, we can't really say for sure that an associate made that call. We're sort of relying on them being honest with us in that aspect. We've also done some various reports. We pull, different timeframes of purchases if we're targeting an iPhone launch or a Samsung launch. And that's just an Excel spreadsheet that gets sent out. And again, we're just sort of relying on the reps to hopefully do what we're asking them to do in all of those scenarios.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question of how much visibility do you have into rep activity, or how are you able to track if they're doing it? And I guess, like you mentioned, it's just checking off a box. But was there any sort of training you had beforehand to kind of encourage them to have that right behavior? Was there any sort of spot checking that managers could do or did to make sure that reps were actually doing their outreach?
Not really. It's just one of those things where from our side of it, we would explain the why it's important, why we want to do it, what it means for the business, what it means for the customer, what it can mean for the individual associate when they are developing those relationships and having repeat customers. But at the end of the day, if they didn't buy into what we were saying, we didn't really have any recourse to go back and say, well, I can prove that you didn't do it because of X, Y, Z. That just kind of was what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, if I was a rep, if I knew that I could get away with not making all my calls, I might be tempted to.
That's, and honestly, when I was a rep and we were just using the 3x3s in our queue, I oftentimes did not do that. But I said that I did. So
yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
So what was the final tipping point that brought you guys to look for a different solution, and how that kind of led you to us, Statflow?
Well, we weren't exactly looking for a different solution. It just kind of became visible to us. And we actually have a very interesting story, a relationship with Statflow, where we jumped on years and years ago. Well, not years and years ago, but in 2016. And we were on board for 1 year, and then we actually got off of the platform for a couple of different reasons. And so we just kind of always had that relationship where we knew what you guys were and what you were about, the program that we originally jumped on wasn't exactly what we were hoping it was, which is why we got off. And then just through various events, CES, different IQ metrics events, we kind of kept that door open and had good conversations. And I think really when Steven came on and was kind of the main point of contact, that's when I think our relationship kind of took the most positive step, and really got us to get back on board. And the platform was exactly what we were told it was. And it was a successful relaunch, I guess, of the platform at that time. So
out of curiosity, what was the biggest difference you've seen from the platform back in 2016 to what it looks like today? What was kind of that selling point of, all right, we're going to give this another go?
Yeah, well, I guess to take it back a step further, in 2016, when we got on, the biggest thing that was appealing to us was the reporting functionality and the visibility over what was happening. So that was, obviously the detractor of the previous versions. And then recently in 2019, when we jumped back on, it was the texting feature. So when we got back, when we were on in 2016, it was still just a call-in based deal. And we were kind of sold on the idea that it will become a texting platform, but it hadn't quite gotten there yet. So that was, the big differentiator just in today's world. Texting is a much more used communication method. People will respond to a text or at least read it. Versus, I'm one of those people that if I don't recognize the phone number that's calling me, I don't answer it. And I know many, many people that are like that. So just, we've obviously seen that with the response rates we've gotten since getting back on with Statflow. So that's one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah. And you guys did awesome. I mean, we did our business review after, 3-4 months. And I think, well, if I remember correctly, you did exceed, the original goal of getting that return on investment, which is the perfect scenario, right? Yep. I actually use you guys as a benchmark with other dealers, which that's a dream come true for an account manager. When people are actually bought into the program, you guys are seeing the sales, it comes from the top down, everybody likes it. And it's especially, I think it's really special because you guys had a bad experience the first time. So it could have been, well, not necessarily a bad experience, but a different experience. And it could have been easy to say, well, we're not really going to put all that effort into it because we've tried this before. So, kudos to you guys for making that happen and us being where we are today. I mean, obviously we're doing the spotlight because you guys are great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about life with Statflow now. We've talked about it a little bit before. So can you talk a little bit about how that initial rollout went? So how did you successfully get adoption at the rep level and get people to buy in and do this every day, and not just at the beginning, but continue to do that on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I think actually having the previous experience with Statflow helped us, where when we rolled it back out in 2019, we had a lot of the same leadership in place. So they already knew the platform, they understood the general concept. They still remembered the why from back in 2016 when we got on, and then we were able to present, the improvements that have taken place since then. Yeah. So it was relatively easy from a buy-in standpoint on that side of it. There was still a little bit of hesitation from some of the issues we had, but once they realized that those issues were no longer present, it was a pretty quick buy-in. So I think it starts with the leadership. Obviously, if the leaders aren't bought in, nothing's really going to happen from there. I think you played an integral role in getting the leadership bought into it. I think we did weekly manager calls just to talk about what the program looks like, different, red flags they could look for if a rep may or may not be using the system exactly how we want them to. So it helped to give that oversight piece and give the leaders confidence in looking through the system, how they needed to look through it. And that's just about daily accountability. It's just that constant reminder, keeping it front of mind, explaining as many times as needed the benefits, again, to the customer, that we're reaching out to them with a custom offer, continuing to build that relationship with the customer, getting that repeat business, keeping Sell Plus top of mind for the customer, so that even if they don't purchase today or tomorrow or next week, next month, next time they purchase, they think back to that rep.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other part is how the system is set up, where we have the most recent rep that worked with the customers who's reaching out to them. So there's that continuity piece that is huge. where it makes sense,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point, right? Is to make that rep feel like they're not doing cold outreach. These are the people they've dealt with, they're familiar with. The customer eventually gets to know them by name or face, which makes outreach a little bit more enjoyable from the rep's perspective.
Right. And then the other side of that, which is, pretty obvious, but to state the obvious, previously we were calling. So
right.
The reps don't like doing that. Nobody likes calling people, even if it is their customer.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was, hey, we now have this texting option, I mean, that kind of spoke for itself, and everybody just kind of grabbed it and ran with it.
I used to have to do some cold calling back in recruitment days, and I'd give myself a goal of 10 and I'd do them all in a row. And if someone said, no, I'm not interested, I did not handle objections. I just said, okay, no problem. So I've definitely been on that side where I know it's not enjoyable, but sending a text is way less aggressive. You're not, actually on the phone with them. There's no sort of harsh reaction if there is any. So I definitely could see how that makes things a little bit easier.
Right.
So how have things changed in terms of being able to coach? And, we talked a little bit about visibility, how the platform previously was just about calls, or with, the 3-day check-ins, it was just a check mark. Do you find you're able to have better visibility now in the reps activity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest differences and biggest areas that we are benefiting from Statflow is being able to see a variety of different things. So we can see the number of conversations that a rep has started. We can see how many responses they've gotten, and we can see how many total messages they've sent. So just, doing some simple math, you can figure out if they've responded to every message they've received. And then beyond that, we can actually dive in and see the actual conversation. So we can coach reps on a variety of different things, from how they're phrasing things to sort of always getting the last word with the customer, not leaving the customer hanging. And, that's obviously a big difference from hoping they got it done to not only seeing that it's getting done, but seeing how it's getting done.
The quality of it.
And so, customer outreach previously was just a task, a checklist. You either did it or you didn't. Now we can actually improve upon it, not just do it.
Awesome.
So it's been a huge difference.
And then talking a little bit more about engagement and things like that, just from from our perspective, how do you feel you've been supported? And not just by me, obviously by me. And if you feel like having an account manager has changed, the onboarding process, has that changed? Our support team now, which I don't think we had back then. So how do you feel overall in terms of support from us?
I think it's been phenomenal. I don't think there's been any issue that we've encountered where we haven't found a solution. I know you say not just you, but you've been really the primary point of contact. So, I mean, yeah, we've dealt with support here and there, but a lot of times we funnel that through you anyways. I just have nothing but good things to say. It's been everything we would hope for with relaunching a program like this. And, we've done a lot with uploading Sales Now lists into the program and customizing our own chat starters and getting our local identifiers figured out. And so that's been a partnership between you and I and figuring out what makes sense for us, but what is also best practices that you've seen with other accounts. So I think it's just been a great partnership.
Well, you guys have been an easy account for me, so the pleasure's all mine. Can you speak to some of the results you've seen? So any, highlighted success stories, maybe that reps have shared with you, or even just from your perspective? I know that you're pretty diligent with reporting. Have you seen an increase in sales? Have you overall seen that customers enjoy being contacted? So what are some of those positive aspects that kind of stand out?
Yeah, we had some early success that was very helpful. I think within the first month, I don't remember the exact scenario, but we had one of our reps that was just doing a general reach out to a customer around a renewal list, I believe. And just through the conversation, they ended up adding 2 new lines, which is pretty nice because for the most part, we're contacting existing customers. So to drum up new lines out of that is, a pretty big success. And it was actually pretty funny. The manager of that location was like, "Oh man, we only got 2 new lines." I'm like, "Dude, we've been in the system for like 3 weeks. That's awesome."
Yeah, that's such a surprising reaction. I feel like most people would be like, "I didn't only get my renewal. I got 2 extra things." Oh, right. That means they have high expectations. It's good.
Yeah. So that was just cool. That we got the success that early, and that the hunger was there to get more than that. Like we needed to get more. So that was just encouraging. Again, that was within the first month. So that was really cool. As far as customer response, it's all been super positive. I think that's, again, the benefit of texting. If they don't like what we have to say, they're just not going to respond. So you're not going to have those escalated customer situations that you're going to have to deal with. There's been a ton of troubleshooting that we've been able to do. So I think there's little things that if we don't reach out to them, they're just going to sort of sweep it under the rug and say, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I don't need to go to the store to bother anybody. But since we have reached out to them, now we are enabling them to ask those questions. And just, again, it's giving them the best experience that they can get because we are available to them and we're telling them proactively, hey, we're here for you. What do you need? It's not always a sales message.
I've seen some conversations. I mean, I enjoy going through rep conversations. It's part of the fun part of my job to look into that. And I've seen where customers will come back saying, hey, I'm having trouble connecting to my internet through my phone. So something that doesn't actually have to do anything with hardware being sold in the store, but they've actually successfully transitioned to seeing that rep as a resource and someone who can help them with their issues. And that's, the ultimate goal of, even when it's not about buying a phone, they're thinking about, so-and-so that helped them and they had such a great experience that they feel they can go back to that number. And I'm hoping likely have saved it, right? They're like, oh yes, this is a great person for me to contact when I need to. So it's kind of cool to hear you say that that's the goal with you guys as well of getting that relationship just real solid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
So
kind of to segue off of that, how have things been, given pandemic times? I know that a lot of people at first weren't sure if they should reach out. A lot of our dealers were hesitant. But we actually heard from some of my customers that it was good. Customers appreciated, hey, thanks for checking in. So how was it for you guys, and just in terms of how did people react, and did you still see any results coming through anyway?
Yeah, so of course, as with everybody is experiencing COVID a little bit differently, it was interesting sort of riding the roller coaster of what we were expected to do from US Cellular's perspective.
Yeah.
And then kind of marrying that with our own thoughts on what we should do. So initially, we actually halted all of our outreach. Just is kind of that we don't want to bother people. Right now, there's more important things going on than what we have to say. So let's just sort of kind of go silent and just leave people be. And I think that only lasted for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And then we started to get back into just reaching out to say, hey, hope everything's going well. Mm-hmm. We're still here if you need us. We offer curbside service. There's ways that we can help you without you having to come into the store. And so those messages were received very well. It's just, again, reaching out with what we're offering to them, not from a sales perspective. Excuse me, not trying to get them to buy anything necessarily, but just saying, hey, we're here for you in whatever capacity that means for you. And we got some really, really positive responses from that. So I think it was good. It's kind of interesting for myself. I'm very results driven. And so to just take a step back and literally not care about results, not care about sales. It was just all about our people and our customers and what we can do to help them. We were able to communicate out a US Cellular initiative, which was waiving any overages for an extended period of time there. So that was just a feel good message that we were able to get out to our customers in a way that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to. We would have maybe tried to call them with that same message. But again, if it's a phone number they didn't know, they're probably not answering and getting that message anyways. So it's been very good since, things have sort of normalized a little bit. I would say it's still going well. Response rates are a little down from what they were pre-COVID.
Sure.
But I pretty much expected that. Just, people are sort of unsure what the future looks like. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like people aren't really wanting to buy things if they don't need to buy things right now, or kind of, holding things a little closer to the chest. So we still have solid rates. I mean, definitely better response rates than without Statflow. So down is still up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it totally does. And actually, talking about overages, my carrier did not waive any overages, and I definitely went over because I had to hotspot, and it really frustrated me. And I thought, you guys gave us absolutely nothing, and I ended up switching. I was up for renewal, and I said, I'm leaving you. And I switched carriers to a carrier that I knew had done some good things for their customers. And so that was kind of interesting for me to be on kind of one end of, hey, I really didn't get supported by my carrier at all. And I'm sure that other people felt the same way and jumped ship. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely say that if I had received a nice message like that, I maybe would have stuck around a little longer. Did you guys have to do any sort of big operational changes during COVID, like store closures or like readjustment of staff, or maybe adjusting for work from home? How did that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we made a bunch of different changes.
Which I'm sure you were responsible for.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I spent a lot of the first couple of weeks there just reading through all these different legal documents, and I didn't know I was going to have to be a lawyer someday, apparently.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But, from a store perspective, we implemented all of the cleaning practices. So regular cleaning on, basically anything that anybody touches. The customer side of the workstation gets wiped down after every use. The phone bars get wiped down. Just, enhanced cleaning all around, door handles, all that stuff. We have plexiglass barriers between our workstations. We obviously got a lot of the PPE and the gloves, the masks, the face shields, all that sort of stuff. We introduced a curbside service for the first time. So again, being able to help people over the phone and then just letting them be in their car and us going out to them. At our office, our corporate offices, we all worked from home for an extended period of time there, which was interesting but fun at the same time. Just getting those virtual connections in some ways improved communication because we were doing daily lengthy meetings where we were decide on different things, and things were happening so rapidly back then that we had to do that. But also certain things kind of fell off that again were the result side of things where we didn't care as much about how we were positioning a certain product or whatever. It was again just about making sure everyone was safe, and that we were just taking care of customers to the best of our ability.
What has surprised you the most from working with Statflow? Anything that you weren't expecting that kind of turned out to be really great?
This might sound kind of bad, but I think just the overall experience being as positive as it has been. I think with our first go around, I had a little bit of hesitation, resistance to thinking it was going to be as good as I thought it was going to be the first time. And so I sort of had I just held back my expectations. I didn't know what to expect. And it's been just so overwhelmingly positive, from the support to the results, to the ease of use, to everything in between. It's just been great.
Awesome. So I'm guessing that means you foresee continuing to work with us for a little while.
That is the plan. Yeah, I don't see us going anywhere for a little while here.
That's awesome. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
So the best way to get in contact with me would just be through email. And my email is bwedel, WEDEL, @cell-plus.net.
And this will pop up on the screen for you guys to see. Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining our spotlight today, and I look forward to continue working with you.
I look forward to working with you as well.